So this is something that I hinted at the beginning of the show. This newly leaked video suggests that Disney's turn to politics was driven by Bob Iger's opposition to January 6th. We should be taking a stand. So literally 2020 is when he decided to really crank it up to 11 on all of this nonsense. And now we've got the video to look at it, to check it out. So let's check this out. Article from Bounding into Comics. Shout out to Spencer. Shout out to Spencer. In recent years, the question of why exactly did Disney decide to throw their hats into the political ring had been burning on the tongues of everyone from the studio's casual viewers to the most vehement critics. And according to a newly leaked video, it appears the answers all has to do with Bob Iger and the events of January 6th, 2021, right? Like we know the movies had already been kind of on a decline for a little while now, especially when it comes to Marvel. You look at Endgame, all of the Star Wars stuff was kind of a bust, right? We knew the company was filled with a bunch of these woke acolyte idiots that wanted to push this agenda. Obviously, we had the not so secret gay agenda that got exposed from Christopher Rufo a while back. So that was something that we knew that Disney was down for all of this DEI's nonsense and everything else. But this is fascinating. This is Bob Iger flat out admitting it and exactly why he decided to, instead of the company privately making everything woke and lame and gay, as South Park put out so very well, instead of that, no. He decided to openly and publicly bring Disney into politics. Bob Chapek never stood a chance. Bob Iger never left the Walt Disney Company when he quote unquote retired. It was nonsense. He kept his corner office. He never allowed Bob Chapek to move in there. This was the exact same kind of nonsense that was going on. This guy never left. It was never Bob Chapek's company to run. It was always Bob Iger behind the scenes pulling all of the absolute nonsense strings. Well, the House of Mouse, like most organizations, has quietly dabbled in politics behind the scenes by way of lobbyists and campaign donations. It wasn't until 2022 that they truly decided to throw their weight around on the political world stage. And as you guys remember, it was the Florida Parental Rights and Education Bill, that quote unquote don't say gay bill, is fucking nonsense BS, which none of that was even in there. It was basically, hey, guess what? Third graders and below, we don't want the teachers talking to the kids about sex. Okay, that's essentially what it was. Your sex life, anybody else's sex life, just doesn't want you to happen. Don't bring that kids up. Don't bring this up. And there are only third graders here, right? Like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be freaking all the way up to high school, right? Until you have like, or in like middle school when you have, or maybe fifth grade when you start to have maybe some of your puberty class lessons or whatever. Like, why are you wanting to talk to fucking kindergarten through third graders about sex? It's creepy, it's weird, and we know exactly why you want to do it, right? Because you want to push your woke cult mind virus, you want to warp the minds of these children, and you want to completely and totally destroy them like you've done so many other things in the past. Because you know you are damaged people, and guess what? Hurt people hurt people. You need help, you need counseling, and you need Jesus. Stop trying to indoctrinate our children with all your woke nonsense. That's literally all it was. So, of course, everybody knows that Chapek decided to say that he was outside to the ball. Like, really, Chapek was essentially going to keep out of all of this nonsense. He was going to keep out of all of the BS. He didn't want the company to get involved in politics. And then all of a sudden, all of his woke, psychopathic, nut job employees pounced on him like nobody's business, forced his hand, and he bowed down like a broken man to the cult and put out this nonsense statement saying that they completely and totally oppose this bill, even though I'm sure Bob Chapek didn't even know this bill was going around until one of his employees brought it up to him. I guarantee that. So here we go now. But now, thanks to the work of an independent journalist, it's Christopher Rufo again. Hell yeah. They may finally have received their answer. It appears much of Disney's turn to the political was motivated by the then company chairman and current company CEO, Bob Iger's opposition to the Washington, D.C. peaceful protest of January 6th. In a video excerpt of January 2021 internal company meeting obtained by Rufo, Iger can be seen speaking of the topic of the Disney roles in politics, informing attendees. We're just going to watch the video. But boys and girls, shout out to the good people that are still working inside of Disney to expose all of this nonsense and get it changed. You guys are the real heroes. You guys are the real MVPs on all of this kind of stuff. And shout out you for keeping your head down, keeping your mouth shut, and suffering through all of this nonsense for this long to expose all of this kind of stuff from the inside. You guys are the real champions. So let's check this out. So this is from Christopher Rufo, exclusive. The then Disney chairman told the employees he was committing the company to take a stand on politics because of January 6th, then praised himself for making Black Panther, which he said was an example of diversity and inclusion, which was a horrible movie compared to T'Challa's experience inside the actual Civil War movie. Like, this is absolute nonsense. Let's check this out. We're going to listen to the whole thing because it's 2 minutes long. I don't care. We're going to listen to the whole thing because this is crazy.
Bob has talked about this eloquently since he's become CEO. I'll say a couple of things about it. You know, we've tended to shy away from politics And in doing so, I think we've shied away from talking about issues that aren't political at all, like the issues that we're talking about today. Because we believe in doing so, maybe it looks like we're taking a stand. Well, in that reality, we should be taking a stand.
See, this is the thing. He thinks this stuff isn't political, right? He thinks he's the greater man. He thinks he's the savior of all of you out there. He's the one that knows what's right for you. So it's not about politics, it's about doing the right thing. And if they have to use politics to do that, well, that's going to be okay. So a company who used to not get involved in legislation, who used to keep their mouths shut except doing things behind closed doors like everybody else did. No, he wants to make everything public and out in the open. He wants to make Disney an advocate for the woke cult agenda, and it wants it to be publicly known. Boy, I wonder why the Walt Disney Company's been failing so much over the last few years.
By the way, I take responsibility for this. I was CEO for 15 years. And so I manage the company's public facing processes and how we were portraying ourselves. And I think that we have to be less cautious, as Bob, I think, was just alluding to, about such things and not be concerned, like just commenting about what happened in Washington last week. That's not political on our part at all. We know that what we saw was fundamentally wrong and that it was rooted in hatred and disrespect.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let me stop you right there, Bob. Let me stop you right there. Were you commenting on all the evil and wrong things while cities were burning in 2020? You know, those fiery but mostly peaceful protests where people were killed, people lost their lives, people lost their entire businesses, their business places were completely and totally burned down to the ground to a point where insurance wasn't even going to cover it and they lost everything. And you think a couple of grannies walking into the Capitol where doors were opened by the security guards there, by the Capitol Police, where the doors were open and they were let in. Yeah, did a couple of people get a little rambunctious and out of hand? Absolutely. Is it something that we've never seen at the Capitol before? No, it happens all the damn time with all the left nut job wokey cult activists out there. But no, nobody ever says anything like that because it fits their agenda, just like it fits your agenda, Bob.
And contempt and intolerance. And we should feel free as a company.
Contempt and intolerance. You mean like contempt and intolerance for all of those private business owners that lost everything in the riots and the fires of 2020? You mean like those people?
To comment about that without retribution. Another thing I want to say that I've learned these last 9 to 12 months is, I'm very proud of a lot of the work we've done in terms of diversity and inclusion on screen. When we did Coco, for instance, at Pixar, a great example of that, or Tiana, or of course, Black Panther is one of the great examples of that. I allowed those things to make.
Oh, you hear that? He allowed them to happen. Your gracious overlord, Bob Iger, allowed those things to happen at the Walt Disney Company. Praise me. I'm Bob Iger. Praise me. Look at all this diversity I let you guys have. I'm your overlord. Aren't you happy, slaves? I let you have it. Aren't you happy? That's what this guy thinks of. He has a God complex to the fucking nines, boys and girls, an absolute God complex.
Make me feel a bit complacent in a sense. It's not that I wanted to be that way, but I thought, wow, we did Black Panther. How great are we? And
how great are we? We did Black Panther. Oh my God, because we're the first ones in history to ever do a movie starring a black superhero. I guess screw Wesley Snipes and screw the Blade trilogy. Yeah, screw you, Bob Iger.
It caused me to not focus as much as I should have on the culture of the company and the environment and in the voices that were telling those stories as opposed to just how they were being portrayed on the screen.
So essentially, Disney wasn't doing enough just by creating movies starring diverse characters. No, instead, no. Now we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the middle of it, front, left, and center. As of this writing, Disney has not yet to offer any public comment on the video excerpt shared by Rufo. Color us shocked. They're going to just keep their mouths shut. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to respond to any of this BS. This is exactly shows you Bob Iger is solely responsible for the absolute destruction of all things Walt Disney, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be Marvel, whether it be Pixar, or their traditional storytelling. Bob Iger is the one that has been pushing for this political BS nonsense, not only behind the scenes, hiring a bunch of woke activists to make diversity movies that failed miserably and completely and totally misrepresented their characters and even cucked their own main leads in many of those cases, i.e. Black Panther. This is absolute nonsense. Bob Iger is the one that is solely responsible for all of this nonsense. He has pushed this drive, he has pushed this agenda, and he's infected the entire Walt Disney Company with it. And guess what? Now Disney's broke. Oh, go woke, go broke. Diversity, inclusion, equity, DIE, leads to die. Die, boys and girls. And that's exactly what Bob Iger has caused the Walt Disney Company to do. Die. Let's just pray Nelson Peltz, Ike Perlmutter, and maybe even Elon Musk can actually save all of our beloved franchises before it's all completely and totally nothing more than an ash heap on the ass end of a very dark time in Hollywood, entertainment, and culture. The dark ages of culture. And majority of it is Bob Iger's fault.